Hey everybody, today I wanted to take the opportunity to use the modeling techniques that we looked at in class today and create some simple objects. So today we're going to be working on a light bulb, and I'm just going to, at the very beginning, I'm just going to kind of really quickly go through it and show you how quickly you can model this thing if you're familiar with the hotkeys, and then we'll take a step-by-step approach and look at exactly what I did to create that light bulb. So give me a second to just kind of flex my 3D guns here, and after that we'll look at what it is that I've done. So I'm just really quickly gonna subdivide this thing, do that a couple times. We're gonna select the bottom faces, so let's do this. And I'm just gonna flatten that. Whoops. There we go. Move that down, scale it in. I need to do the same thing here. Okay, switch to face mode, and I want to move these in. Whoops, let's take these here. So I do sometimes talk to myself while I work. Don't mind me if I sound a little nutty. It's okay. This is kind of, so in my opinion, this is the more appropriate way to create a light bulb, is to do so from a sphere. It's a few more steps than if you do it from, or I'm sorry, from a cube. It's a few more steps than if you do it from a sphere, but it also gives you better geometry. We'll take a look at that. I'll create this from a sphere later on in a couple of minutes, and I'm just going to extrude this down, and then I'm going to extrude it down. I'm actually going to do that. There we go. I don't know, something like that. Actually, I want to make sure I have this bottom face selected. Let's grab this. There we go. Okay, now let's grab this bottom part and kind of bevel that out. Actually, no, I want to do this, and then we can bevel that out. Whoops. Make sure that I'm grabbing those edges. All right, there's that. I also want to bevel this tiny, just a tiny bit. And there we go, we've got our light bulb. Now the easy way to kind of smooth this out is just throw a subdivision surface modifier on there, throw it up to 2, and then of course just smooth it. And there we go, we have the beginnings of our light bulb. There's a little bit more that I want to do, so let me just do that real quickly. And we'll just bring this down a bit, and edge mode. Okay, nope, not that. There we go. Undo that. Something like this, bevel that, add a division. There we go, and we'll bevel that as well. And there we go. So we have a light bulb in no time. It's actually pretty easy to do that. So that's a pretty simple object. It's a pretty common object, but you can see there I basically used all of the techniques that we looked at in class. I know it was a lot of it, and we shuffled things around a whole lot. People were kind of asking me around the room to kind of help them out, and so I know it gets a little hectic in there, but essentially I used all the techniques that we looked at just to create this really simple light bulb from a cube. So now what I'll do is I'll create one from scratch, and I'll kind of walk you through it so that you know exactly what it is that I'm doing. So let's just move this up, and I'm doing that. I hit GZ and just moved it up. Let me turn on my screencast key so you can actually see what I'm doing now. You can also just grab the handle, the Z handle here, and just move it up. And let's start. I would encourage you to watch my other videos because they kind of talk to you about how to manipulate objects, how to get, primitive controls and things like this, because those can be kind of important. But for this, we're just going to look at those simple modeling techniques. So we have the cube. We're going to switch between object mode to edit mode. And I want you to be really, really serious about paying attention to which mode you're in when you're working. And that also includes when you're watching me, pay attention to which mode I'm in. I usually switch whenever I hit tab, so that's the hotkey for that. So I kind of just hit the key instead of coming down here, and that allows me to work a lot faster. So we're in edit mode now. I'm just going to hit W to get my specials menu and hit subdivide smooth. And then I'm going to hit Shift R to repeat that operation. And so we have this nice little sphere here. And so what I did was let's unselect everything by hitting A. And I have this little selection option available to me, which is circle select, which is the C key. And so if I want to select all these faces on the bottom, I can hit C, and you'll get this little circular icon here. You can scroll up and down on the mouse wheel to get a bigger or smaller selection. So here we can select the whole bottom there. And you'll note that because we created this out of a cube, this looks like a square on the bottom almost. And that's because we created it out of a cube. So you can kind of see how it took the cube and it rounded those edges and added subdivisions, and that's what happened. So what I did first was I made this bottom selection planar on the z-axis. I flattened it on the z-axis. So to do that, there's a couple ways. We could hit SZ0, which is my preferred method. But if I right-click that and cancel that, you can also use the scaling control down here. And then you can grab the blue handle and drag it down and just hit 0, and it'll also squish it down. And then I just kind of moved it down, so you can grab the transformation handle, or for me, I just hit GZ, and it moves it straight up and down. You'll see the blue axis appear that shows that you're constrained. So I just move this down, and then I hit S to scale it. And maybe GZ and move it up a little bit, kind of keep it around the same shape. And then you'll notice I flatten these edge loops around. So a quick way to switch between edge, vertex, and face mode is you can hit Control Tab, and that'll open your mesh selection mode here. And we want edge. And if I hold down Alt and click in here, you'll see I can grab that whole loop, because this loop doesn't terminate anywhere, even though some of these corners come up. So now if I hit SC0, it kind of flattens it out. We'll grab the same one up here by holding Alt and clicking SC0. And there we go. This is a little more predictable, a little more even geometry instead of having those corners that are peeking up. So we want to fix that. Now, the next thing I did was I held down Control and hit 7 on the number pad to get a bottom view. So we're in bottom perspective right now. If I hit 5, we'll go into bottom ortho, which flattens out our view. So now I'm going to switch into vertex mode and grab these vertices here, the 3 in the corner. And the reason I'm doing this is because we created this out of a cube, I noted that these corners look a little more square than they do round. So I'll kind of bring those in and then grab the 4 corners and scale those in. And now it's starting to look more circular, like the outer portion of our entire cube sphere, whatever you want to call it now. And so now what I can do is hit A, just grab the face mode again, or come down here and do it if that's what you're most comfortable with. And then I'll hit the C key and I'll just grab all those faces underneath and tumble out of that view with my middle mouse button, hit 5 to go back to perspective. And there we go, we have the bottom. I'm gonna scale it in just a little bit more, just kind of bring it in. And then I extruded it. So of course we have our extrusion options here in this T menu under Tools. Or I can hit the E key, which is exactly what I did. So let's bring this out a little bit further down than I did over here. So this is about the same length, but it's a little bit tighter in. And of course, if you're trying to be really accurate, just pay attention to your dimensions. And then what I did was I hit E, but then I right click to leave it in place. And if you pay close attention, you'll see these dots in between the edges. Well, that means you've got faces that are stacked on top of each other. So those dots are here. If I undo that, those dots are in between. So be very, very attentive to that. So the reason why I left it in place is now if I hit S, I can scale this in and I can create this kind of inset area. So I want to inset this quite a bit. And then I want to extrude it again and hit S and just kind of bring this down a little bit. And that will be the little nub on the bottom of our light bulb that makes contact with the inside portion of the socket. Now you'll see before, if you go back and watch, I actually selected this entire ring and I hit S Shift Z, which locks our Z axis. So we're only scaling on the S and Y axes. And now I can kind of bring this in and out. But I did actually grab the bottom faces. I just forgot to do it again there. So make sure that you're paying attention to that. The reason we want to do that is if I undo this, you can see that you can actually occlude those faces or kind of clip in on those faces. You don't want to do that. So make sure that you select all of what it is you want to scale in. And now if we do it, the whole thing will move in. So say that that's around where we want it. It's starting to look good. Now the next thing I did was I switched to edge mode. Holding Alt, I grabbed this entire ring and I hit Control B to bevel it once. And then I grabbed these 2 rings again and just bevel those individually so that we can get this nice kind of tapered effect there. Now the last thing I did before the final smoothing was I grabbed this edge here. And I beveled it very, very small, like this. And the reason I did that was because I knew I was going to put a subdivision surface modifier on it to get it nice and smooth. Now you don't have to do this. You could leave it like this and then just come over to the T menu and smooth shade it. And if that's what you want your light bulb to be, it's a nice low poly light bulb. That could be candidate for, I don't know, a game model or something, just as a tiny little prop. You wouldn't actually need to put in this extra bevel here. You could actually neglect that extra bevel entirely if you wanted to. I just added it because I knew I was going to put a subdivision surface modifier. Now, before we put in that modifier, let's create those little ridges. So what I did for that was I hit Control R to add in a loop cut. And then before committing to that loop cut, I scrolled up on the mouse wheel to give myself 5 cuts. You click once and then Blender will ask you to place it. Just right click to leave them in place. And now with those loop cuts selected, I can hit Control B and it'll bevel them out. And then I can add in an extra division in between there by scrolling up on the mouse wheel once. You can actually add a whole lot. We just want one. So something like that is probably good. And now I can actually shrink my selection by hitting Control minus on the number pad. And now you'll see we have those inner parts selected. If I hit Control plus, it'll actually grow the selection. So let me just undo that. And you can see that it can kind of add problems there. So I'll just manually reselect these by holding Alt and Shift and clicking on them. And there we go. And now if I bevel these again, something like this, I can hit S, Shift Z, and I can create those ridges like that. And there we go. We have light bulb. We just need to throw a subdivision surface modifier on it. And there we go. We have our nice light bulb. Very simple and easy to create. We can add an extra subdivision there to smooth it out even more. And there we go. We have a nice little light bulb that we created entirely from a cube, and it took us no time. It was actually 10 minutes. So I'll just really quickly show you how we can create this with a sphere. A sphere is actually a little bit easier, but it also gives us additional problems. So I'll just move this up and scale it. So that's, again, the S key there. So let's go into the bottom here. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab this bottom vertex and using Control plus on the number pad, just kind of change that selection so it goes out a little more. Something like, I think that should be good. And then I can, of course, extrude this down and hit SC0, flatten it out. The only thing that we're running into, though, is that obviously this is not shaped the same way as those over there. So we kind of have to fudge a couple of things. So if I hold Alt and Shift Alt, I can grab some of these edge loops in between. And what I can do with them is, let's grab another one. I can say X dissolve edges. So that's different from deleting them. If I delete them, you'll see we lose all of that geometry and we're just left with some of these edges, the edges that we didn't select. So let's undo that and say X dissolve edges. And so what that does is it removes all the vertices that we had selected, and it makes the rest of the edges solid with each other. So it's a really important key to be aware of. So I'm actually going to dissolve this one here. So let's do that. And actually I'm going to do this one here as well, because I want to simplify my geometry. So let's also do, let's do a bunch of them. It'll make our lives easier. Something like that. I know this looks kind of absurd, but don't worry. I'm just going to move it up and bevel it and add in just a couple of divisions up here until this starts to smooth itself out. That's kind of okay. I mean, it's not the greatest. So let's scale it and bring it down a little bit. I don't know, something like that's getting a little bit closer. Again, it's not quite right. We can take this one and scale it in, take this one and scale it in, and you can see how the sphere has kind of created more problems for us because it was complex to begin with, but we can definitely get it to where it needs to be. So this, we can just bevel this like that and then do the same. This is basically the same thing we've already done on the previous one. And then we can grab this vertex on the bottom and increase that out, scale this in, and then extrude that with E, and then scale that again. And there we go. We basically have the same type of light bulb. Let me add in those edge loops here. So we did 5 of those. So again, right click to get it in place, and I'm paying attention to the lower left corner. So let me undo that. Look at the lower left corner and you can see as I scroll up, it shows you number of cuts 5, smooth 0. So that's how I know exactly how many I'm inserting. Let's switch to edge mode and make sure we have all of those selected, because we were in vertex mode when I added those cuts. And then we'll just bevel this. And then we can, oops, I forgot to add that extra cut. So bevel this, add the extra cut, and something like that. Do this, bevel that again, S, Shift, Z, and then we can move those ridges out. And there we go. We have our same light bulb, and then we can throw a subdivision surface modifier on top of it. Make sure that it's smooth shaded. And then again, go in and make sure that we have this edge right here, which is this edge here in our geometry. I can bevel that just a tiny little bit, something like that. And there we go. We have our light bulb. The top of it's a little, it's a little oblong or just kind of weird, I guess. And you can see that the reason I chose not to originally attempt this with a sphere is you can see that we've got this kind of star pattern, and that's resulting from the pole on top here. If I just kind of bevel that out, it kind of solves itself a little bit. And that was a vertex bevel, so it's Control Shift B does that. So. And now we have an end gone, which is another problem of its own, but at least now we don't have that star pattern. It's still not quite as nice as these other ones. So there's an example as to why I like to work with cubes instead of spheres. But you'll notice that this bottom part is perfectly circular, whereas these cube ones, you can kind of see just very vaguely how you may have started with a cube. I think this one's a little bit better than this one. But again, like we did, we went in and we kind of scaled those bottom parts, and it kind of helped us out. So there's kind of like a really quick and easy laid out kind of tutorial of how we create basic objects using some of those modeling techniques that we looked at. I know I went a little bit faster. I'm trying to keep these videos to about 15 minutes so they're a little bit easier to digest. You know, if you want to see the entire process start to finish, I have the mailbox tutorial up that you can definitely check out. If you have any questions or concerns or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section or approach me in class if you're one of my class students. And I hope you learned something. I hope this helps out. I can do more of these kind of basic objects. So for example, this was a light bulb. Maybe next time I'll do a doorway and some modular architectural elements that might help other people out. But for example, this is a completely manifold light bulb. You could 3D print this if you wanted to, either version of any one of these three, in fact. If we kind of look at the wireframe, you'll see that they are completely contiguous. They would be watertight, as you can imagine. You would have no problem 3D printing this if you wanted to. So there's that little tutorial for you. Again, if we turn off the subdivision modifier, well, let's just turn off the subdivision modifiers on all of these so we can get an idea. So you can see that this is kind of bulbous and it's not really perfect. Obviously, I could sit here and affect all of that. It'll take a little more time. But these I find were a little bit easier to create and have more predictable geometry and behave more in a way that you would want. So there's the creating a light bulb using some simple modeling techniques. And I hope you learned something. I hope this helped you out. And thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.